we are of separate generations, definitely have different
Wait a
pasts.
minute, why would you assume that?
Not far off. Let's say that.
You know,
Not
the
far.
first rule of thumb is never insult your guests.
You did not. I didn't say who was younger. That was you. Hello, I'm Jacqueline Coley. Welcome to Seen on the Screen from Make It Universal and Rotten Tomatoes. We sit down with the people behind the stories that move us and ask, what have you seen on the screen that made an impact? My guest today is someone who has not only worked with Universal Pictures, but with all the studios who release movies in theaters and streamers. Nicknamed the Doctor of Audience-ology, my guest today is Kevin Goetz. Kevin, welcome to Seen on the Screen.
Thrilled to be here.
I'm so glad to speak to you because you are one of these people where you have a cool job. So I'd love if you could start off by telling folks your full name, title, and how you interact with NBC Universal.
Wow. Kevin Goetz. I'm the founder and CEO of Screen Engine ASI. Screen Engine ASI is a data research and strategy company serving the entertainment industry, principally focused on audience testing, meaning movies before they come out. We do the pre-testing on those to find out what's working, what's not working, etc. We do advertising testing. We do tracking of movies. We also have a very healthy television practice and a gaming practice. We also work with brands for international measurement of brand health and landscape studies throughout the world. I have a pretty robust office in London, with about 320 people that work at Screen Engine.
Wow. That is a cool gig, let's be real. But it's also one that I think you have to just have a lot of experience and industry knowledge to even attempt to think of, let alone execute.
Yeah.
So before you get to a point where you're doing a company like Screen Engine, you have to have all of this knowledge. And so I'd love for you to talk about the various stops that you were in your career that then let you say, oh, not only should this be a company, but I'm the perfect person to then sort of birth it into creation.
First of all, I think I have the best job in Hollywood. And if you had told the 13-year-old Kevin that he was going to be doing this, I probably would have wanted out of this life because I thought it was, on paper, the most boring thing you can think of. And I was a child actor, and I wanted to be a star on Broadway, or I wanted to be in the movies. And I did not want to be known as a research person or a strategy person. So I'm so excited about where I am today because of the path I had early on. When I was 17, I started my first business, a dance and acting school in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And I knew that business was something that I was good at and that I wanted to make sure that I married both sides of my brain, left and right brain, as I got older. But that, again, you're asking what informed me to get to the position that I am in today. I then produced. And through producing, through acting, and through business, I learned a ton. But I also, 39 years ago, became a focus group moderator for a company called NRG, who did a majority of the movies at that time in Hollywood. And I was able to make a living or supplement my income by doing that. So I was always a hyphenate. I was a actor and a focus group moderator. I was a producer and a focus group moderator. I was an actor, a producer. It wasn't until 2003 when I became single-focused. And I was offered the opportunity to run a new division at an existing company called OTX. And I became the president of that company. And that was truly the first time I melded all of my, what I call finding your A-N-D. I was this and to this. I was this and to this. I was this and to this. And so melding those together finally came together in a way that was the perfect path.
Wow.
And I was happy ever since. And I think it took all of that time. It's a wonderful question, Jacqueline, because people sometimes say, well, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. And I always tell young people, it's not a jail sentence. Learn what you can, acquire what you can, because ultimately it may be that you have a happy accident or stumble upon a happy accident. And I think that was my case completely, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, and you took all of that experience, first working with the first company, but eventually then you're like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing, and became so successful at it that you wrote a book, Audience-ology, your first book. And I really want to talk a little bit about that, because by the time you're there where you're writing the book, this is years after you sort of consolidated, but you're writing about this sort of science. Talk a little bit about that, because again, you could have just did it. You didn't have to make a book discussing it, kind of thing. What was sort of the impetus of that first book, which now then led to this one?
I'm truly an audience advocate, and it is so important to me to educate. It's part of my leitmotif. I want to educate young people. I want to educate the next generation. The first book, Audience-ology, was an attempt to, as I say, memorialize, to somehow give a record to stories and the history and legacy of a part of the movie business that very few people knew, which was audience test screenings. So I had tremendous people contribute to the book, because I'm still bound by strong confidentiality and proprietary sort of information, restrictions. So I need other people to tell the stories. And so that's how Audience-ology was born.
Oh, I love that. I really do dig it. And I mean, that was the beginning of the journey. And now we're coming back where you're even sort of like adding more to the legacy of you talking about audiences in Hollywood, how to score in Hollywood, the secret to movie success. We're going to dive into that a little bit more, but very excited to chat about it.
I also want to say that Simon & Schuster is my publisher. And another great lesson to you all out there who are thinking about the notion of taking no and move and stopping your dream. I had rejections from publisher after publisher after publisher, and I'm here to say it only takes one to say yes.
I love that. Again, keep going until you get the yes. The no's are on the journey.
No is not part of my vocabulary generally. I don't cotton well to it.
I can see that.
I don't fancy that word.
All right, let's dive into our quotes.
Quotes. Okay.
These are from movies that you've hopefully seen on the screen. Here we go. First quote. We didn't need dialogue. We had our faces. I gave you a little bit.
You
of help.
gave me I'm going to go Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard,
playing the
1950, Norma Desmond.
Yeah.
But I want to say that had you not given me that, I'm not sure I would have gotten. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I hope you did. We had faces was enough. Let's talk a little bit though about Sunset Boulevard in particular, because this is funny. We are of separate generations, definitely have different paths.
Wait a minute. Why would you assume that?
Not far off. Let's say that.
The first rule of thumb is never insult your guests.
You did not. I didn't say who was younger. That was you.
Oh.
I just said we were of different generations.
God,
you were the one. You were the one that called yourself out, sir. So touche. No, but
yeah.
I came from Montgomery, Alabama. You're from East Brunswick, and it's just
Brooklyn originally.
Yeah. So my point being is that you can come from different places, but you can be very united by film. You can be very, and I think like classic films do that, and I think you
100%.
think that as well, right?
Of course. I mean, of course.
What do you think about classic film now versus modern, and like how it sort of relates to especially like newer, like these folks you're talking to in these focus groups?
Wow. Well, I find audiences haven't changed all that much. I mean, people want to be entertained. Someone asked me the other day, because I began the book tour of How to Score in Hollywood, have the audiences changed? And I don't think they have. And they say, have you ever been wrong about a movie? And I said, I'm wrong every day of my life in some form or fashion. No BS. but the audience is never wrong, because all you're doing when you're testing a movie is you are interviewing 300 people essentially. They're giving you their feedback. And as you know, if anyone's who ever been in therapy knows, your feeling is your feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the truth. So all we're doing is getting that, we're aggregating that data, and then we're reporting on it. So how can that be ever, or how can that ever be wrong?
Mm-hmm.
It can't be. I could be maybe wrong in my interpretation. I could be, but typically the audience is telling you exactly what they want. And I don't think that's changed from the beginning of movies to today. I think audiences still want to be entertained. They want to laugh. They want to cry. They want to have all their emotional sort of, fulfillment. So, which is why I always talk about it in this book, to have an ending that is both intellectually satisfying, but also emotionally satisfying, are really important. Not just the intellectual satisfaction, which is saying, yeah, that question was answered, etc., but also feeling something. And it doesn't have to be a good feeling. It could be a bad feeling. It could be, Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy, but, it couldn't end any other way, right? And nor would we ask it to end any other way. So I think that audiences basically are the same from the beginning of time. Research has changed. Methodology has changed. The way in which we ask questions, the tools that we have to do it, but not audiences.
Oh, that's interesting. And probably when you think about it, they're doing the same thing. Everyone else is changing.
Indeed.
Let's move on to our next quote. Quote number 2. You should feel alone or that your world has just come apart. Just reach out and you'll see a friend is never very far.
Oh, that's a horror movie. That's Megan.
It is Megan, 2022.
That's Megan. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, I
People
know.
were surprised by that because it wasn't just that little dance that she did. That was cool, right? But it was elevated horror, which is what Jason Blum and Blumhouse have done so brilliantly. Call out also to Cooper Samuelson, who has head of film there. They understand how to take what could be typical in someone else's hands and elevate it to another level. And I think Megan did that.
But you have a very intimate relationship with Universal Pictures. And with Megan in particular, there was aspects of the audience feedback that you gave to them that helped shape, I think, its success, obviously, that you would talk to them about, like who was interested in the movie and what they needed to maybe do around how they released it.
Well, listen, there were so many things that came out and do come out of every test screening. Fortunately, I work on most of the Universal Pictures of the last 15 years, and have worked on many throughout the last 40 years. And I can tell you that I can't think of an instance where there has not been a change made, even if it's a slight change, or marketing insight that arose from what audiences have said. The people that work in those jobs are there for a reason. They're very good at what they do. And I find the best marketing folks insatiably curious. And so they will sit and listen to every word of the focus groups that I conduct after a screening. They will read every word of a report to try to say, what can I glean from this? What can I get from this to add to the campaign? And there's always something.
Oh, I love that. Was there I heard that there was a specific note about the rating, though, that you had given them that they needed to probably adjust it so they could get the audience that wanted to see it.
Young girls were clearly the audience for that movie. And if you were to go R, you would be cutting off a large swath of your audience. And so do whatever you can to move to a PG-13.
Our third quote. I'm obsessulated.
Oh my God. Wicked for good.
Yes, definitely. Ariana. which I have not even seen this because I have not watched any of the media leading up to Wicked because I'm going to get to see it and
wait
I
till you
don't want
see
to. But then I'm going to devour all of it.
Let me tell you, I'm going to say it in one word. So I tested the first Wicked, and the first Wicked was really something special. I remember cornering Donna Langley at a screening, and not the least of which was the fact that I was from musical comedy and obsessed. But I had Donna, I think Michael Moses, and Peter Kramer, and these are
CMO,
folks.
Head of production, chairman
Exactly.
of the studio.
And I think it was, I think it might have been one or two other people, Mark Platt and John Chu. We were sort of all in a little thing, and I said, this is going to be massive. This is going to be massive. Now, remember something. Oh, sure, he's so brilliant. It's going to be massive. But that was a huge investment. Universal took a really big swing on that, and it could have gone a different way, but it didn't. And as soon as I heard that audience and the response to it, I said, you got something major here. Yeah. So, cut to the second one. We go back to a theater in Arizona to test the second one. No one knew what they were seeing. Lines were outside. I think people kind of suspected, but let's assume they didn't because they were not recruited with a title. So I get down to the front of the theater and I said, and I do this on a regular basis, I said, I want to thank you all for coming out this afternoon to this very special screening. I am so thrilled and excited to announce that you are the first audience to see. As soon as I said, "Weh," it was deafening.
Wow.
In all my years of doing this, I had never heard an audience. I felt I was literally blown back to the screen because of this screaming reaction.
Wow.
It was extraordinary. And the movie delivered. Sorry, I won't say anything more than that. Yeah. And John Chu, by the way, had to be thrilling for him and Mark Platt because we're sitting in the focus group afterwards and I had to dig to find anything that they were going to change. It was so terrific.
I love it. We're done with the quotes. This is actually our true or false. True or false? The 1987 film Fatal Attraction was first shot with an ending where Alex, played by Glenn Close, dies by suicide and frames Dan for her death.
True.
And you again have a connection to this ending, the original ending, which I just have to give a little bit of, for folks that don't know, get a little professor moment. This has gone down in history as one of the, they talk about it in film school as how audiences eventually started to influence production, which was not something that had happened prior to this movie in such a big way.
Totally. It was a seminal research moment. And it was, look, the audience in the focus groups would be like, first of all, they rated the movie well in the top 2 boxes, excellent and very good. But it wasn't huge in the excellence. And we're all like, we're in this room. It played so well. But in the last, 2-3 minutes, the air was sucked out of the room. Mm-hmm. And so every time you ask the focus group, why didn't you rate it higher? The ending, in unison. Anyway, we tested it in this place. Finally brought it to a 4th place. I believe it was a 4th place. And Sherry Lansing said, we have to do, she was, one of the producers. We've got to do something here. And in fact, it was decided that they're going to go and reshoot this ending. Not everyone was on board with it. Adrian Lyne and Glenn Close were not initially on board. Michael Douglas was. I think he was also a producer on it. In any event, they shot it, and it was so perfectly balanced. And this is what I said about the intellectual satisfaction, but also the emotional satisfaction, that the audience, they were literally coming out of their seats like a wave. I remember that happening. That happened on Borat. Borat was, people were laughing. They didn't know what to do because with that teabagging scene, am I allowed to say that?
You can say whatever you want.
And also, what's love got to do with it? When Tina Turner, when Angela Bassett finally says, I'm going to keep my name. And the audience just, I mean, it was, those kinds of moments are so exciting to have been a part of before anyone was talking about them. And I have a lot of those examples. But Fatal Attraction, absolutely true story, and became a massive success. Very funny, quick story. I started my book tour in London about a month ago. I'm on the BBC morning show, and I'm speaking to them. They gave me about 7 minutes, about 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes in. They say, well, tell us about the end of Fatal Attraction. And I went, okay. So I started building up the story about dying by suicide, etc. And then what they did was, oh, sorry, we're out of time.
The BBC is on time, boy.
I said, I literally on air, I said, are you kidding me? I said, okay, we'll have you back. I said, okay, whatever. I walk out of the studio. I'm kind of bummed. A friend calls me. I just heard you. You were wonderful. I said, oh, please. They didn't even let me finish that story. I went on with my day. I had a photo shoot. I was going to do a podcast in London, and suddenly the phone rings. Unknown caller. Pick it up. Hello, Kevin, this is from the BBC. We were wondering if you could come on tonight's news and finish the story that you started. I was like, oh,
they
okay.
got calls. They got calls.
So wait a minute. I said, well, I'm on my way to do a podcast. I'm going in the taxi. I'll have to do it in the taxi. That's fine. So, we only have 21 seconds. I said, 21 seconds? Are you nuts? I said, how am I going to do it in 21 seconds? So I practiced it in my head, and I said, okay. So I started, and then she comes out of the bathtub, and he's with the knife, and he's in the thing shaving, and he sees her, and he chokes her, and oh, that was 42 seconds. We'll just cut the ending. I said, you can't cut the ending. The ending is where I say that the movie went back to test. It did extraordinarily well, and because of that, it made tens of millions of dollars more. Let me do it again. I did it in 21 seconds.
Look at you.
I didn't even know what I said. I was, and I'm like, I literally went, and they said, wonderful. I said, okay. So
I'm going to find this.
Please. That's a career buster, I think.
No, it's not a career buster. I've done the BBC. I know exactly what you're talking about. I just want to add one more thing, though, too, because you were a part of that moment with those test audiences. And there's movies like Jaws when it comes to how we market summer blockbusters. When we talk about a movie like Manchester by the Sea, when we talk about the Academy and streaming movies, and what you did with Fatal Attraction and Glenn Close and with that ending, that is in the books forever when it comes to audience research. So it really is something they should give you time to talk about. So congratulations. Moving on to our second trivia question. True or false? When A Beautiful Mind was released in 2001, audiences were so confused by the hallucination sequences that Universal added a voiceover in later cuts to clarify the story.
Kind of true.
So that's false.
Yeah, they didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
But there was confusion, a little bit of confusion.
That is true. So yeah, you're right.
But Ron and Akiva and Brian really were so attentive. We did probably, without exaggeration, maybe 7 or 8 mini screenings where we would go, 50-person screenings. There might have even been family and friends screenings where we would all just go, and I would do the groups, and then we would talk afterwards, and then they would evolve something. And it was, let's face it, it was perfection out of the gate, pretty much perfection out of the gate. But the audience feedback did help fine-tune that movie. And I think Ron would tell you, and Brian too, that any screening we did helped refine the story. Ron does say it best, I have to say. And what Ron says is the following. He says, I get a chance to pick my script. I get to work on that script. I then get to cast my project. I then shoot it my way. I edit it afterwards, or I'm in the editing room and part of the editing process. And then one day it is released to the world. And perhaps what I thought I communicated is not what has been communicated. So therefore, I have to listen. I have to take those notes in and then make those changes.
Ooh.
Isn't that great?
That is great that he looks at it
because
that
he's
way.
saying he respects the audience that much. And it's why he's one of my favorite filmmakers and humans, but he's just so attentive and aware of who he's making something for. And I think that's great. I'm sure Billy Wilder would have done it as well.
I love that you put that wisdom out there, because that is sort of the bits of wisdom, like what you're talking about with Ron. You've worked with so many illustrious directors and film execs. You really put that into this book to where people can dive in and learn these Hollywood secrets.
Well, How to Score in Hollywood is a little bit of a different situation, because the first one, Audience-ology, was about stories, screening stories, and kind of a memoir of how I got in and again, how I worked through these movies and how I evolved and how the movies evolved. And so it was a little bit more of an intertwining and specifically focused on the playability of a movie. You know, once it's made, how did it play and how can we make it the best version of itself? How to Score in Hollywood is more about almost the pre-green light, what I call the capability part of a movie-making cycle, which is, why do so many movies lose money? Why do so many movies are sort of they're miscalculated? And that was curious to me over the years. And I said, I want to unpack that. I want to understand. And it's not just about movies. It could be about anything in entertainment. It could be about a new iPhone. It could be about a new product that doesn't even exist. That is to say, understand what you have out of the gate as intently as you can, and size your audience. If you're creating comparable titles that are not realistic to what you've created, you're going to budget the movie for the wrong price. That's what this book does. It really tries to remind you to ask the right questions, make the right decisions early on, not after the fact, where you have to do costly reshoots or whatever. And sometimes because they're DNA issues, you can't change it. Therefore, this book is about anyone venturing into something new and understanding how to mitigate your risk. Because I believe something, I'm going to say a big statement here, which is, it's a lot. Every movie, if made and marketed for the right price, should make money.
Ooh, that's I understand that. It's the right price part that you talk about.
There's somebody out there who loves that movie.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is a miscalculation of just how many people not only like it, but are intensely liking it, and how many people will then be the passionate advocates for that. That's where the rubber hits the road in a way. That's where the real data comes into effect, and you can use it very proactively.
Oh, that's a great lesson. And the reason why I say I found it to be instructionary is you put the chapters, they're actual like to-dos. They're like, hey, this is what you need to do. They act as instruction, the chapter titles.
They do.
Awesome.
They do.
We're going to go into our last trivia question, true or false. The 2018 Halloween reboot ignores all previous sequels, acting as a direct continuation of the 1978 original.
Gosh, I don't know if that's true or false. I think it's true.
It is true.
It is true. I can tell you something very interesting about that. It was very important that we hearkened back to the original format, which was this obsession that Laurie Strode has with Michael Myers. And the audience at the first test screening was not that pleased with the resolution, because it really is about, I don't want to get too heady with this, intergenerational trauma. And she now had a daughter and a granddaughter, Laurie did. And those people, those three people needed to participate in taking down Michael at the end, which did harken back in some really poetic way to the first one, you know? And so that had to be reshot. And when they reshot it, the scores shot up as a result. It's almost another kind of Fatal Attraction kind of story. And again, the success of that was extraordinary.
I remember I saw that at a Midnight Madness screening at the Toronto International Film Festival, and this is not a lie, there's news reports on it. Somebody passed out.
Oh.
Like they literally were like,
oh my God.
Not in like a medical, they were fine, you know, whatever, but it was just like so intense that they were like, I need some air.
Remember those old stories about The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, some of those devil movies where, you know, people had some really
One of the
strong
reasons why I still haven't seen
reactions.
The Exorcist. You can fight me. I'm not going to watch it. I'm sorry. I made my choice on that movie a long time ago.
You don't want that in your consciousness.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I know it's a classic. I've seen all the other Freakins. I'm just not going to watch it at this point. No. Anyway, let's go to the rapid fire questions. These are easy, quick answers.
Fun.
Favorite movie snack?
Kit Kats.
Ooh, you're my first. I think you're my first Kit Kat. Love that.
Really?
Yes. Most people are butter popcorn.
Ugh.
I love you for that.
No. You have to understand, I spend my life in a movie theater. It's like asking a person who sells shoes, or you see, and they say, would you like new shoes?
No.
Would you like popcorn? I smell it. It's in my dreams.
That's
every day of my life. But Kit Kats are my jam.
Last show you binged?
Hacks?
Oh, that's a good one. Universal production.
It is?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
We produced it on the lot.
I did not know that.
Going to the movie theater alone, yes or no?
Definitely. But I am lucky enough to have my own movie theater in my house.
Nice.
Yes.
Also, you're never alone in the theater. You're always with audiences.
No, but when I have gone as a civilian.
Ah, nice.
Oh, I used to love it a lot. And I just haven't been because I have a theater now. It's like, it's just the crowds and the whole thing. And every night of my life, I love movies so much. I just,
I was saying that, but you're still going.
I love seeing them alone.
I will say this though. You say you're not going, but I'm like, but you are still going. You're like literally at movie theaters all the time. So it's not like
I might be in a movie theater 5 nights a week.
Exactly.
Or days and nights.
So I'm like, this man is still going to theaters.
Oh,
you
yeah.
still have to go to the theater.
Oh,
He
yeah.
goes more than other people.
No, but I'm saying I like the idea of that solitude, that quiet around me.
Is there an actor or filmmaker that you will always show up for as a civilian now?
Oh, Meryl Streep.
That's a good one.
Period. Full stop.
Your favorite classic Universal film?
Classic. What year do you begin classic?
Anything over 25 is technically a classic.
Was Schindler's List over 25?
Yes, it is. That's considered a classic
Well,
now.
I mean, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
That violin.
It's a stunning movie. It is a stunning movie. It had me, I literally couldn't get out of my seat when I saw that. I saw it in New Jersey, as a matter of fact. And that's another great thing. Isn't it cool when you remember where you were when you watched?
Saw the movie? Yes.
You know, I had my 13th birthday with Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
That's a pretty good one.
That was like, that's what you did. You had a birthday party and maybe pizza afterwards. Like that was a thing. So many folks love movies, but people by and large are just seeing far fewer movies. As the population grows, more people might see movies, but they're going to see far fewer movies. So the benchmark of a theatrical film, which the book talks about quite a bit, has just grown so much. It's so much harder to convince people to leave their homes. Yeah. When they do, they're there. But to get them there is really tough.
Well, that's why people got to read your book.
Listen, from your mouth to God's ears, my dear Jacqueline.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, it is out now for folks. If you haven't had a chance to pick it up, please do wherever you buy books. And thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're terrific. I just love being with you.
Aw, this was fun.